basically camp Christian music with the hand signals and all this, and we're enjoying. But as the organizations formed and as the alliances formed, those elbows formed and people separated from one another. That is happening globally, sad to say, again and again. So God has to, and you mentioned it, has to refresh the communities of faith. And he does that by shaking. He does that by, I mean, we've seen it in the US and certainly in Australia, where global leaders, major leaders of denominations fall because of finances. What do they say? Gold, glory, or girls.
Right.
Those are the big three. And look, if somebody gets out of whack, that church dissipates, that church goes through turmoil, and people around say, I'm done with this Christianity. When that happens, then God has to reinvigorate some of those folks, and new growth happens where there had been substantial growth. So that is happening global south. It's happening in Africa. It's certainly happening in China. My goodness, 20,000 people a day being born again in China. You think, how is that? It's that because God pours out his spirit.
Yeah, exactly. The Spirit blows where he wills. And thank goodness. There's also something that I think we can see when we look at the growth in China, and the word is the fastest growing church in the world is in Iran, right? These are places where the pressure on the churches is so severe that there's such a clear-cut choice to be made at that point that people really understand. You are either throwing in with the Lord as the Lord, or you are going to continue to follow off in the political ways of the society around you. There is a real line drawn. On one side is the darkness, and on one side is the light. Isn't that right?
It is right, and yet it can only last a certain length of time. That is, political persecution can have its weight against the people of God too much.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to keep praying the prayer that Paul sent to Timothy, that we should pray for those leaders and executives and governors and governments, so that we can live a quiet and peaceable life in all godliness in Christ Jesus. That really does matter. He wrote that to a guy who's there under Roman